Okay, this is part 1 of 5 videos that I will be demonstrating to show you how to build this Salt Lake Beaded Temple. As you can see, most of the temple is made up of what we call 8mm beads. You will need about 700 8mm beads. You will need about 90 6mm beads. And you will need about 90 4mm beads. The 6 and the 4mm beads will only be used on the part of the spires that will be taught in section 5 of the videos, part 5 of the videos. So you will also need 20-pound test line. That is what string we use to actually string all these beads together. And you need about 35 yards per temple. And I like to just take some fishing line and wrap it on a piece of cardboard, especially when I was making kits for all of my youth that I was teaching. I just would wrap about 35 yards test, just kind of guesstimate, put a little hole there and kind of hold on to the string that way. Also need 12 inches of a 3mm slim pipe cleaner, a white one. We use this to not only hold the walls in place when we form the walls, but also we will use them at the end to create these little spires that they'll be on. So just need one of these, maybe 2. One to help hold and the other one for the spires if you want one straight at the end. So in order to get started on our beaded temple, what we first are going to work on will be what's called our first row or our ladder row. This is this first row right here. So this video, part 1, is basically just showing you how to get started on making that very first row. So the first thing you're going to do is take about 2-yard piece of your 20-pound fishing test line or string, whatever you want to call it, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to take 4 8mm beads, which is our largest bead that we have. So 1, 2, you're going to take 3 beads, put them on, and you're going to take them to the middle of your 2-yard line that you have, 2 pieces of the middle of your test line. Okay, so I just kind of match the ends, pull it down. You can see the 3 beads are right here at the bottom, like that. Okay, you'll take the 4th bead and you'll do what we call a crisscross. You're going to be doing this a ton when you're making this temple. So a crisscross means you take the bead and you put one side of the string into the one side of the bead, and you take the other end of the string and put it into the other side, and you pull. And as you can see, we're going to pull this nice and tight, and you should be making a diamond. This little shape right here, you're going to be making a ton of these diamonds. So what we're going to do in order to get started, we're going to continue this process. So the first time you put the 4 on, you put 3 beads on and you crisscross 1. Now, that's what you're going to do the very first time. You won't have to repeat that, but what you do next is you'll grab 3 beads and you'll put 1 on the right side and 1 string on the, or 1 bead on the left side. Okay, and then we will crisscross 1. Remember, 1 string through the one side, the other string through the other, and just pull. Okay. Now if your beads start to kind of get, with all the string moving, it's fine. Just kind of lay them flat. You'll want to check and make sure your string, before you go too much further, is pretty. If you have uneven edges, just kind of pull it so your strings will match up at the top. So you don't want it too uneven. This is the kind of time to make sure your strings are even. So kind of pull it. If you've got an uneven string, like if one is longer than the other, match up the strings, come back, and kind of pull your little beads down to center. Okay, so we've matched it here, and we pull them down to center. Now, I want to show you what you're making. Okay, so I'm going to hold tight. Okay, so this was the first diamond you made. Now by adding those 2, we're going to pull down that center bead. You did another diamond. Okay, so I want to show you how you're going to count these. You count it by the center bead. There's 1, 2, 3. You have 3 center beads. We're going to continue this process, which is add 1 to the right, add 1 to the left, then crisscross 1 until we have 36 center beads. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut off the video now. You go ahead and finish until we have 36 center beads. Let me show you one more time. So you're gonna get 3 beads out. 3 beads out. You're gonna put one on the right side of your string, one on the right string. So one on right side, one on the left, and then crisscross one. And when you do the crisscross, that's when you pull tight, and it will pull down to like a little diamond shape. Remember, grab the strings, pull, pull, pull. Sometimes I like to wrap my hands like this. It just kind of keeps the string straight. Okay, as you can see, if we lay this flat, pull both strings up. Okay, there we have 1, 2, 3, 4 center beads. We're creating a little diamond effect here. Now, every 3 or 4 beads or so, what I want you to do is just stop, hold on to the strings like this, and start from the center bead and pull down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to keep pulling because you want them nice and tight so they're going to lay tight. It's really important when you're doing this row that you keep this super tight, because this kind of sets your whole temple up for being really nice and tight. The looser this is, the looser your temple walls will be. So make sure you set this up. So every 3 to 4 crisscross beads, when you do 3 or 4 little sets of them, go ahead, pull the strings, grab the bead and go pull down like this to make them nice and tight. Okay? And then it will start forming a shape. So what I want you to do is go ahead, continue to put one on the right, one on the left, crisscross one, continue that pattern until you have 36 center beads. You now have 1, 2, 3, 4, so continue for 32 more. So I've been working on my ladder row. I'm halfway there. Remember, we needed to go to 36 beads. I have just finished with 18, and I'm going to show you how to pull. They should all look like this. So what you're going to do is make sure your line right up here nice and tight. Hold both parts of your string. Go to your very bottom center bead. Remember, we're going to count the centers to see that we have 18. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then there's our 18th one right there. Okay, so this is what you can do like every 4 or 5. This is the tugging part I was talking about. I'm going to show you that even if you think it looks tight, there's still more tension you can put on it to get it even tighter, which would make even 4 tighter, and the walls will not be saggy of your temple. So you're going to grab a hold up here like this, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to start pulling down each bead. So and you can count them as you go. So there's 1, 2, and you only pull in the center. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Notice I'm holding on to the bottom as I'm grabbing the center bead, so I'm really putting a lot of tension on that string. So it's stretching the string, and it's also, look how much more I'm getting pulled down those beads. I'm really pulling all the slack out of those beads. And then the last time we can pull, so let's try that. Kind of dropped it on that last, okay? Now look even tighter. They're almost like stiff now. So that's exactly kind of what I want it to look like. So go ahead, finish the next 18. Remember, you want 36 beads, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I have finished with my 36. It'll look like this, about this long. And remember, once again, you count the center beads. There's 36 of them. Now I'm going to give it one more tug as tight as we can. So we're going to hold on to these strings. Get them nice and tight in your hands, even if they are getting a little short. Try and hang on to them. Wrap it around your finger if you have to. And then start from the bottom and just start pulling each center bead down. You can count. It'll stretch a little bit as you go. And that will just continue to get that as tight as we possibly can pull it. You can see I'm pretty tight. I'm not getting much movement because I've been pulling along as I've been going. As we get up here to the top, we might get a little more movement because I haven't pulled for a minute. Just a teeny bit of movement we're getting. And I am pulling pretty hard. Getting a little more movement, a little more tightness. Okay, see how nice and tight that is now? It's pretty stiff, okay? That's exactly what you want to do. Now, we look at my strings. My strings are a little bit small, but it's going to give us just enough to be able to do what we're going to call now is we're going to connect our circle, our first row. Since we have 36 center beads, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're going to wrap it around into a circle, but we're going to make sure this is not twisted, okay? Make sure it's nice and level and we haven't twisted. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we'll just kind of set that down. We're going to take our strings that are remaining. We're going to put one the direction I'm facing. So this is my left side. I'm going to put one on the left string, one on the left string. We will pick up the very first center bead. We will go through that wall of the center bead, pull that close, and if you look closely, see, remember we've been making diamonds this whole time. Remember little foursomes? So we've got our one bead we ended with, there's our bead we added, and there's our first bead we started with. Now, you can look closely. All we need now is to crisscross a bead. So I'll take my strings and I'll crisscross one last bead, and this will close up join our ladder row into a circle and make our first row so we're ready to start building the walls of our temple. So I just crisscrossed that, pulled it tight. Now look, it should look like that. It should look like just all of the rest of them, okay? So you have this nice little angle. All right. Now, because I am running out of string, I'm going to show you how we actually end the string and hide the little tails of the string once we tie the knot, okay? So if you would have had more string, we could do what I'm going to show you how to do that now. We'll do what's called a jump up row. But what I want to do, I want to show you how to tie that off right now because we are running out of string. We won't have enough string to jump up and go on. So in order to tie the string, you don't want to tie a knot. See how we have a crisscross? We have the strings coming out of both sides. We don't want to tie a knot over the top of the string and have our knot showing, okay? So what we'll do is we'll just take out the crisscross, just the one side of the crisscross, leave the crisscross on the other side, and then just tie a little knot. And see, we still get that same little motion. We still get it. It still pulls that thing over and connects it, okay? But our strings are now together on the side right there. So we just tied a little knot. Now make sure everything's nice and tight before you tie that final knot. It's a square knot, right over left, left over right. So we did the first part of the knot. It's like tying a knot in your shoelaces. And I'm going to pull this nice and tight, okay? Make sure it's nice and tight and you really can't see the knot. The knot's right there. You really can't see the knot and it still has that nice shape. Now in order to, if we cut them off right now, that knot could possibly come undone. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your little threads and maybe thread them down back through a bead that's right adjacent to that knot. Sometimes you can put both strings through at one time. Sometimes you need to go one at a time. And I'm just going to pull that through. Do you see that? Our knot is right there. We've hidden our knot and we've hidden our strings by pulling it through. I just go through one bead is all that's necessary. Then I pull that really nice and tight and I clip them off. Now you can't even tell where I hid that knot unless you look really, really close. The knot is there, the strings are hidden through that bead, and we're ready to go on. Now this was the bead we left off at, so I'm going to get another piece of string. I would probably not go any longer than a yard. Sometimes if we work with too long of a piece of string, it gets really hard and they get kind of twisted and wound up. So we're going to go back, so in order to go back to do exactly where we left off, we want to be crisscrossed in that bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a new piece of string, because we've tied off our old string, we ran out of string. And you're going to do this numerous times as you're building your temple. You always have to start and stop new string. Okay, I'm just going to take that string and put it through. Make sure I match up my ends like this. Okay, match up your ends so it's kind of in the middle. And do you see that? Now it's like I have a crisscross. Even though it's just one string, it's just like I have a crisscross, and you can continue on. Okay, if you did have enough string, you didn't have to tie a knot, then this is where you would pick up just like this. Or if you needed to switch string like I did, then you go ahead, tie the knot, hide the string, put a new one through, and just loop it just like this, and we're ready to do what's called a jump up row.